100 kilowatt hours of thermal energy.
Right, shall we give it a taste then? It's my favourite.
We're really talking to the plants and they're telling us how happy they are.
They can fly, but they can also float on water.
As much money as possible.
It's all about augmented reality.
Is courtesy of
The Lazarus Group.
Totally and utterly immersed in another world there.
allegedly
Your tech
operating on
update.
behalf
Click
of a
on
country
BBC News.
which denies all involvement.
North Korea.
Join me, Jeff White,
And me, Jean Lee, for a gripping
The
new
news never
series of the
sleeps.
podcast.
The Lazarus Heist.
Even when you do,
Listen first on BBC
a
Sound.
ceasefire is being called. A president is being overthrown. And trials of a new cancer drug show promise. But rest, knowing you can catch up in your own time. The Global News Podcast brings you the stories you need to hear every day. Listen wherever you get your BBC podcasts.
Hello, I'm Lewis Vaughan Jones. You're watching The Context on BBC News.
The answer is that we, in unity, will give 100% in any field when we have a goal to protect our people and our Europe.
As Russia wages war against democracy itself, Europe is united in standing up for Ukraine. This is our commitment.
Friends, the United Kingdom may have left the EU, but we have not left Europe. We remain a proud European nation.
Hello, welcome to the programme. In Iceland right now, European leaders are talking about how to support Ukraine. We'll have the very latest live. Also on the programme, we look at the threat of AI, artificial intelligence. Politicians in the US are trying to work out what to do. Also in the US, President Biden is due to be in talks right now to try and make sure the country can pay its bills. The so-called debt ceiling looms. And 5 men are found guilty of a huge jewel heist in Germany. We head into the world of art thieves and priceless art. First, though, to that summit in Iceland taking place right now. These are live pictures that you can see the Grand Hall there, playing some music, it seems, a musical interlude right now. But over the last hour, we have seen European leaders stand up and give speeches and crucially give an ongoing commitment to support and stand by Ukraine. Now, the technicalities, this is a meeting of the Council of Europe and has plenty of European leaders in it. We can take a look at some of those European leaders arriving this evening. This is only the 4th leaders meeting. Ian, thank you very much for that. Now around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. Let's look at some other stories here in the UK. A gang that supplies false pass to a serious criminal, murderers, drug dealers, jailed, anti-beard, paid vulnerable people to hand over their expired passports, applied for renewals using fugitive photos. The judge said enabling very wicked, sophisticated, violent criminals to escape justice. The Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has to make it easier to source food in the UK. He met with food manufacturers, supermarket bosses, farming organisations, and Downing Street discussed food price inflation and security of supplies coinciding with the meetings. The consumer group, which the price of some goods jumped by 25% compared to last year. Vodafone is to cut 11,000 jobs over the next 3 years. 3 years equivalent to a tenth of its global workforce. Right, you are live with BBC News. Now to the US, Washington, and the so-called debt ceiling. These are live pictures right now. We are expecting President Biden and top Republican Kevin McCarthy.
Yes, Lewis, we've probably all heard the term debt.
They need to make progress on a deal to raise the debt ceiling, essentially allow the US to borrow more money to pay its bills. If they don't, it could mean an economically catastrophic default. Right, let's go over to Nikki Schiller to explain it all. Interesting. Mark Zandi, great to have you on. Great to have your thoughts. I'm loath to say, but maybe we should get you back on in case that 1 in 10 outcome does happen. Let's all hope the 9 in 10 outcome happens. But if the 1 in 10 does, we will get you back on and we'll speak to you again. For the moment, thank you very much.
Take care now.
That's it. I'll be back in a couple of moments. I'm Lewis Vaughan Jones. This is The Context on BBC News. Bye-bye.
Hello there. For many parts of Europe, it's going to be quite cool.
Hello there. The rest
through
of the week still looking dry.
We've seen temperatures dropping in Scandinavia
well.
Today,
we're expanding our horizons too, and wherever we go, we want you to come with us.
Now that might make for an awful lot of excess baggage, but we think you're worth it.
The Travel Show. Watch now on BBC iPlayer.
Hello, I'm Lewis Vaughan Jones. You're watching The Context on BBC News. The head of the company responsible for the artificial intelligence tool ChatGPT gives evidence to US Congress saying AI needs urgent regulation. But first, time for the sport. We can head up to the BBC Sports Centre. Hi, Tolson.
Lewis, thank you very much indeed. We'll start with football. The Champions League continues as the second leg of the Milan derby is played at the San Siro. Inter hold a 2-0 lead from the opening leg of the semi-final. They're just over half an hour played. And more on that and everything else, you can head to the BBC Sport website. But Lewis, that is all your sport for now.
Great stuff, Tolson. Thanks for that. Now, the head of the company behind the artificial intelligence tool ChatGPT has told US senators that government intervention is needed to keep the industry safe. Giving evidence to Congress, Sam Altman, CEO and co-founder of OpenAI, claimed the technology had the potential to improve nearly every aspect of our lives, but admitted it also posed serious risks and needed safeguards. Chiara San Giorgio, thank you very much for your time and talking us through that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now, around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News.
After the flood, now a wave of volunteers all wanting to muck in to clean up Queen Camel. Dozens have come every day, delighting residents like Rosemary.
If it hadn't been for the community, some of us would have gone under.
This day centre used by older people to meet is most likely set to be demolished because of the damage.
Personally, I can't see any other way of having this demolished and rebuilt.
Meanwhile, the appeal for help goes on.
We are desperate need of dehumidifiers, industrial dehumidifiers. We desperately need industrial carpet cleaners.
The rainfall that led to this flooding was unprecedented, but people are keen to know whether there were any other factors at play.
A full investigation will take place, but we don't want to preempt anything until that investigation has taken place.
You're live with BBC News. Impeachment proceedings against Ecuador's president have started. Guillermo Lasso has been accused by opposition legislators of embezzling funds from public companies. Lasso says the allegations are politically motivated. He's been appearing at the National Assembly to present his defence. The process could take days or weeks, and it's not clear whether the opposition will get the two-thirds majority required to impeach the president. The political turmoil comes as Ecuador goes through the worst security crisis in its history, caused by the increasing involvement of local gangs with Mexico's powerful drug cartels.
Claire Marshall, BBC News.
Right, do stay with us. Two developing stories this hour. Keeping an eye on President Biden in the US, meeting opposition politicians there, trying to get a resolution to the debt ceiling. And in Europe, leaders are meeting at the Council of Europe. We're keeping across that too. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. I'm Lewis Vaughan Jones. This is BBC News.
Hello there. The rest of the week
we
still
begin
looking
our
dry
world
in many
weather
places
in
and a
North
bit
America
warmer
as
and
well.
for many
Today
western
was a
areas, it's
pleasant
going to
late
remain a very
spring
warm
day.
Found us. I can't believe I'm now wanting to run away from the place. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Your Tech Update. Click, watch on BBC iPlayer.
Hello, I'm Lewis Vaughan Jones. You're watching The Context on BBC News.
The answer is that we, in unity, will give 100% in any field when we have a goal to protect our people and our Europe.
As Russia wages war against democracy itself, Europe is united in standing up for Ukraine. This is our commitment.
Friends, the United Kingdom may have left the EU, but we have not left Europe. We remain a proud European nation.
Welcome to the programme. So, European leaders are meeting in Iceland right now, talking about how to support Ukraine. We'll have all the very latest live on that. And we'll also talk about that tonight to our panel, former Cabinet Minister David Gauke and, journalist in Washington, D.C. there, Stephanie Bolton. So we will say hello properly to both of them in just a moment. First, though, let's go back to Iceland and this summit. Several European leaders are there, and we've heard from several of them. Rishi Sunak has been speaking. You can see him just there in the middle of these pictures. This is the so-called family photo. So after we heard speeches from Ursula von der Leyen, from Rishi Sunak, and crucially, of course, from the Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky, we heard a series of speeches, and then this was the family photo after, a real who's who of European leaders. And one theme coming from everyone who spoke, Emmanuel Macron, you can see there, he did speak too. One theme came out more strongly than anything, and that was of unity. And right at the beginning, we heard from the Ukrainian leader, Volodymyr Zelensky. Let's take a listen to what he had to say. So that was a video message delivered live by Volodymyr Zelensky there. David, Stephanie, hello again. David, let's start with you. What did you make of the various speeches by the European leaders there and the comments of Zelensky himself? David, we're only just getting started, but I just want to go live to the US. I will bring David and Stephanie back in a moment, but I want to go live to the US now because those discussions on that crucial debt ceiling, allowing the US to borrow more or else not pay its debts, have just been going on. Let's take a listen in.
Where we are, but the good thing about it is Republicans always look to find a solution.
So Kevin McCarthy there, Republican US House Speaker, on one side of these negotiations. Just to remind you, this is the negotiations over the debt ceiling. So a law in place in the US limits the amount of borrowing that the government can borrow. But of course, the government still has all its spending commitments. So they need to negotiate. President Biden on one side, Republicans on the other, to come to a deal to raise that limit or attach certain conditions to it, as the Republicans would have it. So anyway, that's the background. In a couple of interesting lines. We did hear from President Biden earlier. I'll bring you that in just a moment, but just want to reiterate what Kevin McCarthy said before we hear from President Biden, because he said two things. One, it is possible to get a deal by the end of the week. About 2-week deadline for when things get very, very serious. But he also said, seems slightly counter to that, we are still very far apart. So make what you will of those two statements from the US House Speaker McCarthy there. Right, let's hear from the other side of these negotiations right now. Let's hear from President Biden. So, quite a good laying out there of both sides' position. That was Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries representing the Democrats. And earlier we heard from Kevin McCarthy from the Republican side. Interestingly there, the Democrats saying that everyone agreed in those meetings, whatever side they're on, that default is not an option. Well, they do have to make some kind of compromise and actually make a decision to avoid that. And they've got a couple of weeks to do it. And we heard from the Republicans reckoning, despite their distance, they could do a deal by the end of the week. Right, let's bring our panel back in. Let's get your immediate reactions then. David, Stephanie, great to see you both. That was kind of live, raw politics in action in front of our eyes. Stephanie, what did you make of it?
Then this is going to drag out for some time. And just briefly returning to US politics, of course, here.
David, I'm afraid I'm going to have to. I don't want to interrupt you twice in one, but I'm afraid I have to, because we are coming right to the end of this section. We just have 10 seconds left. We will chat to you both in a minute. I'm Lewis Vaughan Jones. This is BBC News.
Hello there. For many parts of Europe, it's going to be quite cool. Hello there. The rest of the week still looking dry in many places, and a bit in Scandinavia today.
Remarkable stories.
Your
from
favourite radio
places
show is now available
on
BBC News.
Join us for a
so join me, Nicky Campbell,
award-winning
for the nation's
documentaries.
phone in,
Why
talking about the big
on
topics
BBC
of the
News.
day, giving you a voice. No judgment, just honesty. Nicky Campbell, weekdays at 9 on BBC News. Watch on iPlayer.
Hello, I'm Lewis Vaughan Jones. You're watching The Context here on BBC News. 5 men, all members of a notorious criminal family network, are found guilty of the 2019 jewel heist in the German city of Dresden. Now, it was one of the biggest art heists in modern history, and today 5 members of a criminal gang have been jailed for stealing priceless 18th century jewels from one of Europe's oldest museums in Germany. The raid at one of the oldest and richest treasure collections in the world took place at the Green Vault in Dresden in 2019, with a diamond-encrusted sword among the treasures taken. Only some of the collection has since been recovered. This isn't the first theft like this either, of course. You might remember an armed gang dressed as airport workers stole 75 million euros worth of jewels, about to be loaded onto a plane at Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. That was back in 2005. 3 men were jailed in 2019. Around 40 million euros stolen items still haven't been found. And then there was London's Hatton Garden heist. Almost 14 million pounds of gold, diamonds, cash were taken when a group of men drilled into a vault in 2015. And then in 2019, the 18-carat solid gold toilet was stolen from Blenheim Palace. The artwork has never been found. Nobody has ever been charged. So, Amelie Ebbinghaus is the director of the Art Loss Register, which monitors the market for stolen art and other valuable objects. And you're going to answer all our questions on this. Thank you very much for coming on the programme.
Thank you.
So it is one of these stories, and when these stories do come up, they really grab the imagination. First of all, we've listed a whole load of invaluable items being taken. Who is behind this? What are the kind of people, and for what reasons do they take on these huge heists? You are always tough. Oh, tough, Tom. Yeah, we're all feeling for you. Great stuff. Enjoy it. Thanks very much. Right, around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News.
You're a raver.
Do I look like a raver?
This site at Carlisle Cricket Club has been dug up before. Some of its history is well known, but land beneath this new trench hasn't been examined, and it could throw up exciting new discoveries.
We've got 4 that can fly, but it can also float on water.
Going back to Hadrian, and then we've got this monumental Severn building. It's probably the largest building on Hadrian's Wall. And we have this imperial connection when Septimus Severus was up in the north of England. So in effect, this was the centre of Rome. It's just an incredible story.
Each patch of freshly dug soil is carefully examined. Anything potentially interesting is taken away. And already volunteers are polishing finds and sifting the earth for fragments of the city's Roman past.
You always find little bits and you wonder what they are and, you know, what they were used for and who touched them last.
Long term, it's hoped what's found here can either be preserved on site or put on display to illustrate the significance of Carlisle's Roman heritage.
You're live with BBC News. I'm Lewis Vaughan Jones. Now, though, it's time for the panel. So this is the moment where we give our panel a time to talk about something that they want to talk about. David, we're going to start with you. The floor is all yours. Plenty of live issues for us to discuss, but we are out of time. Stephanie, David, thank you very much for your contributions. We really appreciate your time. That's it. I'm Lewis Vaughan Jones. This is BBC News. Bye-bye.
Good evening, I'm Dalton Tollett, and this is your sports news, where we start with football. And Inter Milan are on the verge of being the first team through to the Champions League final.